Are you having a hard time getting people to know that you can fix their problem? Are you using things like how many years of experience you have, how many degrees you have, how much education you have in order to show that you're the expert? Well, we're going to fix all of those problems in today's episode because I'm giving you 3 demand creation tools that automatically let your audience know that you are the solution without ever saying you're the solution. So if you want those, keep on listening. Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Who's ready to talk messaging? Welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we are going to talk about demand creation tools, but more specifically, these 3 demand creation tools are based on getting the audience to self-identify that they have a problem or that they need your help. And I think so many unheard entrepreneurs try to convince. They sell by convincing. They sell by using benefits, aka logic. They think that their audience is going to make a logical decision to buy, to enroll, to register, to attend a webinar. But it's usually never the case. It's usually never a logical decision. And you may have heard me use this example a few times. Like when we read a book or we watch a really good movie, we're not sitting there thinking consciously or logically, is this good? What makes it good? Why is it good? Did it hit a checklist of these things? Oh, it did. Okay, therefore I'm going to watch. No, it's more of a feeling. Same thing with like friends, right? You have friends that you really get along with and some that you may not, or some that you really got along with and that you don't. In most cases, you never really logically try to figure out, why do I get along with these people or why do I not, until something falls apart. Maybe, you had a friendship that lasted, your best friend for a lot of years and then it fell apart for some reason. You might go to logic at that point, but while it was good, you usually don't say things like, okay, what's the checklist of a good relationship? Does it hit this? Does it hit this? Okay, now I know what's good. No, you already know what's good before that. And all of that happens on a subconscious level. There's certain things going on that cause you to feel like something is good or a connection is there. And when it comes to selling, there's ways to do that too. For example, Apple has done a really good job with this with their products, right? Usually people will buy their products. I guess this may not be the world's best example, but usually because of emotion, right? Like people feel like they want it or they feel like it's best or because it looks sleek and it just is cool. So therefore they want it. A lot of times there's not a lot of logic behind that because if you were thinking financially, there might be financially cheaper options that logically would make more sense for your budget, but people may be stretching budgets to go buy Apples because of, different reasons. So I have 3 tools that we actually use or that I use when writing video series or creating webinars or copy or content that I use to help your audience make those decisions and automatically feel like not only do they have a problem and self-identify that they have a problem, but you are also the solution that they need. Okay, so a lot of this will happen on that subconscious level. And it really is nothing more than just patterns. It's patterns that give you a different style of communication. These are patterns that get your audience to self-identify and feel like, oh my God, they're talking to me, or oh my God, they have the problem, or oh my God, this is the person that I need to help me, right? It takes logic selling out of the equation because we don't really need logic in order to sell our stuff. Sometimes we do, but we really want to lean more into the stuff where people just automatically go, I need this person. I love what they're saying. I've never thought of it that way. That's the person I want to work with. Okay. So let's just hop right into these 3 patterns. These are also 3 things that we're putting into the Video 4X program. So if you are a Video 4Xer, we will be implementing this into the new version of the program, which should be coming out in 2022. And we will be going deeper than inside the program with these than we are here today. So with that said, I want to start off with what I call the list formula. Now, I'm going to reveal these things, and if you really pay attention to them and you really study them and you really try to master them, you'll actually notice that I use these all the time. I use them in podcast episodes. I use them in our video series all the time. I use them in emails and marketing material, copy. In fact, this list formula, which is number 1, is a really good piece of copy to use or pattern to use in ads, like the copy above your ad. They're really good in emails as well. The list formula is really great because what it allows you to do is allow you to explain something, and it leaves the audience feeling like and knowing that you're the one that has the solution. You're the one that has the answer without you ever saying that you have the answer. Okay? So I want to reveal the formula, and then I'm going to give you a couple examples. So the pattern goes like this, and there's a reason why we call it the list formula, because we're going to list 2 things. So what I want you to do is I want you to gather specific things that your audience does and specific problems they experience because they're doing those things. Now, these need to be specific and real things. For example, if I said something like, "You're feeling overwhelmed," that's not specific. That's very generalized, because I can take the phrase, "You're feeling overwhelmed," and I can put it on the sales page of a weight loss coach, a business coach, a parenting coach, and it's all going to make sense on every single one of those pages. If I can copy and paste your copy, your explanation, your messaging, and put it on someone else's sales page, and it still makes sense, you're not specific enough. So I'm talking about specific things. So instead of saying you're overwhelmed, let's say you're the parenting coach, you're saying things like, "You're overwhelmed because you feel like the moment you wake up," you don't even say you're overwhelmed. You just start with, "The moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, your kids are with you 24/7, and you find out that you're yelling at your kids more than you're actually communicating to them normally. And you're feeling overwhelmed because of that, because you don't know what to do." So that's a very specific thing that parents might actually really be feeling. They might really actually be doing that. They are experiencing that. Now, the reason why we want to get specific and go deeper with it, because when we get very specific and granular with the real thoughts, the real feelings, the real actions, what happens is humans will automatically self-identify, "Oh my God, that is me." Right? So if I said something like right now, I said, "You're one of the best listeners of the podcast if you're on a walk with headphones on, because you are intentionally setting out to listen to the podcast uninterrupted," right? If I said that, and again, that's not a true statement, but if I said that, it was very specific, the people that were out walking with headphones would automatically feel a sense of, "Good, I feel good. Oh my God, they're talking about me." And the people that are the opposite of that weren't on a walk with headphones in, would feel the exact opposite. They'd be like, "What is this person talking about?" So I'm a little bit polarizing what I'm doing, but I'm building a deeper connection or making the audience who is on walks with headphones resonate on a deeper level. Now, again, that wasn't a true statement. So we want to find the true statements so that most of the audience will be doing those things and feel and resonate with you on a deeper level. I'm going to give you an example of how we're going to do this. Okay. So here's the formula. Here's the list formula. Once you have your specific things that people are doing and the specific problems they're experiencing because they're doing those things, you're going to put it into a sentence that looks like this or sounds like this. If you're doing one of the 3 things, then you can put your struggling avatar or an identity in there, like the unheard entrepreneur. I know you're an unheard entrepreneur if you're doing one of the following 3 things. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to list out the things that they're doing. You are, I could say things like you're posting how-to content 70% of the time. You are posting every single day. You're surveying your audience and giving them everything they want. So again, I start with, I know you're a struggling avatar. So I know you're an unheard entrepreneur if you are doing boom, boom, boom. If you are doing one of the following 3 things, boom, boom, boom. So what's going to start to happen if I say you are an unheard entrepreneur if you're doing one of the following 3 things, and then they recognize, oh my gosh, I'm doing one or more of the following things. They're going to self-identify, I am the struggling avatar. Now let's take it a step further and say, and because you're doing that, because you're doing those 3 things, I know you're experiencing this problem, and this problem. So I'll say things like you're experiencing posting every single day with very little results. You haven't seen any growth in your audience or sales in the last 3 months, and you are feeling exhausted and burnt out because you're doing everything everyone tells you to do, but you're not seeing the results. So again, all those are specific. Notice I said you're plateaued for more than 3 months. You're doing 70% of content. So what starts to happen if I explain and I list out the real problems that they have and the real specific things they're doing, the concept problem, they're going to assume I have the answer. Okay, so there's 2 ways to do this. The list method works in 2 ways. You start by saying you are the unheard entrepreneur, or the whatever identity you want to say, if you're doing these 3 things, and because you're doing those 3 things, you're experiencing these. Or you can flip it. You could say, if you're experiencing this, if you are the type of entrepreneur who's been posting consistently and hasn't experienced anything for 3 months, any growth in 3 months, you are giving your audience everything that they want because you're surveying them, then I guarantee you are also doing this. You are doing how-to content 70% of the time. You're doing blah, 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 right? So again, we have specific things they're doing and specific problems. You can either start with the problems and then list the reasons why those problems are happening, or you can start with the specific things they're doing and then end with the problems. Okay, so it works both ways. The point here is to list, here are the things, the specific things you're doing, and here's the specific problems you're having, or here are the specific problems you're having, and here are the specific things you're doing to create those problems. Now, when you do this, you never once say, I have the solution. You never once say, here's what the solution is. You never once say, I help people with this. You never once say any of those things. You're not selling yourself. You're not positioning yourself as the expert. But because you are able to get very specific and granular on the things they're doing and the problems that they're having, you're not surface level, you're not generalized, they will automatically assume that you have the answer, because the only person who can get that granular, that specific, is the person who has gone through the problem and has solved it. That's the way the mind's going to work. They're going to go like, wow, this person understands it on such a deep level. They have the answer. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example for all of you parents out there. This is how the list method would work. If I said something like, look, if you're the type of person who's wondering why your kids don't listen to you, within the first 3 times of you asking them to do something, you tell yourself at least twice a day, man, I really need a vacation. Or you are yelling at your kids more than 3 times a day, I'm willing to bet you punish your kids in order to try to correct their behavior, or you threaten to take something away from them in order to correct their behavior, or you're probably also never asking them why they are behaving this way or how you can respond to them better to get them to do something. Now look, I'm not a parenting coach. This is just an example. But what I did there is I listed out the things that you're doing, things like you are experiencing this problem of your kid's not listening to you the first 3 times, you feel like you need a vacation, and you're yelling all the time. Those are the problems, right? Well, then I went to the specific actions that cause those problems. 1, punishing to try to correct behavior, threatening to correct behavior, and a lack of asking why those things are happening, a lack of trying to get to the root problem. Now, the way I wrote it and the way I said it was that I know for a fact, because I've worked with parenting coaches like Rachel Duffy and other people, that usually when kids aren't listening the first time, or you feel like you need a vacation, or you're yelling at your kids all the time to try to get them to do stuff, is because the way you're going about them to try to get them to do things isn't working. And usually the most common behavior is trying to punish them to set the boundaries, which is something I learned from Rachel. You threatened to take things away instead of getting to the root problem and building a relationship and a connection with your kids. But I know that those problems exist, and I know people are doing those specific things. Now, here's the thing. If people or the person listening was experiencing those specific problems and they were also doing the specific things that I said, they are going to automatically assume that I have the answer. In fact, as I read that, you may have been like, well, Brandon really has this figured out. He knows what the solution is. And I don't really know this. I'm not a parenting coach. I don't really know what the solution is. I probably am the person that yells at my kids 3 times a day. Not like yell, but I'm definitely will raise my voice like, come on, like, go take a bath or, whatever. But anyways, the point is the list formula, the list method, when you know those specific things, the specific things they're doing and the specific actions, and you position them together in one paragraph, one sentence, they will automatically assume that you have the answer. So again, I use these in webinars. I use these in video series. I use this in copy and emails. We use it all over the place. But what this will do is it doesn't require audience to think. It gives them a feeling of this person is the person with the solution. This person is the person with the answer. Okay, so that's number 1, the list formula. Number 2, this is what I call the time-based identifier. And I actually used it already. You can use the time-based identifier inside the list formula. And I already used it earlier today or this episode. So here's what the time-based identifier is. What I want you to do is I want you to pick one specific problem that you know people are having, and you're going to use this sentence. If you have been blank, doing blank for more than blank, then I know you're blank. Okay. So if you have been doing or experiencing blank for more than blank, then I know blank. So let me give you an example. If you have been plateaued in sales or audience growth for more than 3 months, then I know you're likely doing more than 70% how-to content within your business. If you have been experiencing a lack of growth in audience and sales for more than 3 months, then I know you are a struggling avatar. I know you are an unheard entrepreneur. If you have been plateaued for more than 3 months in audience or sales growth, then I know you for more than 3 months, then I know you have been likely serving your audience and giving them everything that they want. So what this does is allows me to come in and say, if you've been experiencing this really specific thing for more than this many months or time, whatever it is, more than this many minutes, this many weeks, this many days, then I know and you can list a ton of things. You can say you're the struggling avatar. You could say you have been doing X, Y, and Z. Or I could even say you haven't done this one thing yet. So I could say something like, if you have been plateaued in sales or audience growth for more than 3 months, then I know you haven't tried connection and thought reversal based content combined with your how-to content. So you could say you are the struggling avatar, you've been doing X, Y, and Z, or you haven't been doing X, Y, and Z. So what starts to happen is the subconscious mind will self-identify. They are talking about me because I have had a plateau in sales and audience growth, and it's been more than 3 months. I better pay attention. The subconscious mind is awake. It's alert. It's listening to every word that you say. Okay. So let's do this. Let's do another example. Let's use a parenting example. If you haven't gone 2 days without yelling at your kids, then I know your common behavior isn't to calmly ask your kids why they aren't listening. If you haven't gone 2 days without yelling at your kids, then I know you are using punishment to try to correct their behavior. If you haven't gone 2 days without yelling at your kids, then I know you're threatening to take things away from them to correct their behavior. So what starts to happen is if someone hasn't gone 2 days without yelling at their kids, they're going to go, wow, they're talking about me. And then you say, I know for a fact that you are still trying to correct their behavior with punishment. And if that person's trying to correct their behavior with punishment and they haven't gone 2 days without yelling, boom, you have them. They're like, oh my God, that's me. They self-identified, but we're using a time-based thing. If you haven't gone X amount of days, X amount of hours, X amount of minutes without experiencing this problem, then I know you're doing this specific thing. And if all of that lines up, and obviously you want to frame this in a way that you know it's going to be true, but because we're going specific, it's a time-based thing, we're explaining their exact situation and naming their exact behavior, they are going to pay attention to you and they're going to self-identify that you are the person who can solve their problem. Because you're able to go deep, because you're able to be very specific. And again, numbers, time-based things are one way to get very specific. So those are two of the tools. So two of the tools are list formula and the time-based identifier. Those are very simple, and you guys could take those today and you can implement them in an email and add a social media post, something. This is stuff you can just literally implement by the end of the day. And I'm promising you, if you nail it, if it's specific, and you can specifically describe the time or the problems that they're experiencing or the specific, combined with the specific things they're doing, people will resonate with it. They will want you to explain how to fix it. They will assume you have the solution. So when you open a webinar with that, people automatically go, this person has a solution. I'm doing exactly that. Their subconscious mind is alert and paying attention to you on a whole other level. So I'm going to give you one more tool. This one's a little long, so you might have to put this, like if you're driving or something like that, you might want to just pause this episode and wait till you're home and you can write it out. Or you guys can go into our Facebook group, the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast, and we can list this one out for you there as well. But I call this the 1 and More framework. And there is 5 steps to this. And I'm going to break it down very simply. Most people, and then I'm going to break it down simply, and then I'm going to give you the expanded version of this. It's just hard because it's a podcast, and it's usually better if you can have a visual with it. But I call this the 1 and More framework. And I think so many people, when they go to sell, they have webinars or a video series or a challenge, the biggest issue that they have is that they think they need to add value by giving information and helping people with problems before you can pitch. Content, your sales mechanism, all of that stuff should be helping you sell. It should be creating demand. You don't want to shy away from the fact that you're going to sell someone something. In fact, in our runways and all of our stuff, I'm very upfront with people. I'm like, I'm not going to sell you anything right now. I'm not going to sell you anything today. Today, we're going to focus on this. But just know by the end of these couple of weeks that I'm going to spend with you guys, there is an offer coming, or there is this thing coming. Or, on a webinar, I might say something like, this is the right fit for people having these problems, but it's also, you're not in the right place if you are the person who gets upset and wants to throw a hissy fit. If I'm going to give you 60 minutes of my best information, then make a pitch and give you an offer to help you on a deeper level, and you're going to complain about that, this is not a right fit for you. You can close this webinar. So I'm very upfront about there's an offer coming, when it's coming, and I explain why it's coming. I show people that, there's going to be a thing that allows me to help you on a deeper level. If you want it, great. If you don't, then whatever. But don't be surprised when a pitch is coming because it is. So you don't need to be that upfront about it. You don't need to be that abrupt about it. So I'm going to show you, this is the 1 and More framework. The 1 and More framework allows you to basically create demand or sell your program without actually selling your program or your service. And if I was to do a webinar, and let's pretend I was teaching thought reversals, I would start off by saying something like this. I would say, okay, now we're going to move on to step number 2, which is a concept I call thought reversals. Now, just so you know, inside the Video Forex program, I have 9 different versions and ways to do thought reversals. And when you master all 9, you're going to see huge results. But obviously I can't give you all 9 today because it's going to take forever. And I don't want to overwhelm you. So I'm going to give you the most powerful one that I use right now. And in fact, this one is so powerful, you can have it implemented by the end of today and start seeing results by tomorrow. So what I just did in that one statement is I said, I'm giving you 1, but there's more. That's why we call it the 1 and More framework. I'm giving you this 1, but there's more, and it's inside my program. So as you start to teach and you start to drop all of these things of, here's the 1, here's the reason why you are getting just this 1, here's when you can implement it by, but just know there's 9 more inside my program. So what you just did is you created a demand gap. I'm going to give you 1, there's 8 more you're going to be able to get. If you want the others, it's going to be inside the program. Okay, so that's a very simple way of breaking it down. Don't shy away from pitching. Whenever you teach, let them know that this is a piece of a much bigger pie. This is a part of our program. There's 9, there's 3, there's whatever. But I'm only going to give you one right now so that you aren't overwhelmed and you can have it implemented by whenever. So there's 5 steps into doing this framework, the 1 and more framework. The first one is you start with I am about to, and you list a benefit. So I am about to show you how to create the most engaging content you've ever created, right? So list some kind of big benefit or promise. I am about to list promise or benefit. Then as soon as I do that, I go right into the mistakes. Here are the mistakes that most people make, and I get very specific on the mistakes that I know they're making. So let me give you guys an example. I'm about to give you and show you how to create the most engaging content you've ever created. Now, some of the biggest mistakes that people make is they focus 70% or more of their content on how-to and educational content. They also survey their audience and give their audience everything that they want, okay? Then I move into step 3 and I list the consequences that happen when they do that. So real consequences. And what happens when you do 70% of how-to content is you start to blend in with all the other experts because the audience perceives you as saying the same things as everyone else. Everyone and their mom has a video on how to do X, Y, and Z. When you survey your audience, you blend in because you don't have a message. Your audience controls your message. And that's why no one's paying attention to you because you're all over the place. You have very generalized and bland messaging that's all over the place. Okay, so let me repeat these steps to you guys. Step 1, I'm about to. You list the promise and the benefit. You list the mistake that most people are doing, that you know they are doing. Step 3 is you tell them the real pain points or consequences that they're experiencing because they're making those mistakes. Again, it's very similar to all the other formulas that I'm talking about today, just different ways of doing it. Then we move on to step number 4. I have blank ways of doing this. And inside blank program, we have all of them covered. And then we move on to step 5. But I'm going to give you the best one, the most powerful one, my favorite one, because give a reason why, because it's easiest. It's not going to overwhelm you. And with this, you can start seeing results by blank by tomorrow. Okay. So let me run through all of these one more time. I'm just going to list them out and then I'm going to give you the full on example. So in step 1, I'm about to give you the big promise. I'm about to give you this big benefit. Step 2, here's the mistakes that most people make. List the specific things that you know they're doing. Here's what happens when you make those mistakes. So list the real consequences and pain points and things that they're experiencing. Get specific. Next step, tell them how many ways you have to fix that problem and what program it is. So whatever your offer is, whatever your methodology is. And then number 5 is tell them you're giving them the best one, your favorite one, and list why, and then list how soon they can see results. So let me give you guys an example. I'm about to show you how to create the most engaging content you've ever created in your entire life. Now, this is so important because the mistakes that most people make is they focus 70% or more of their content on how-to and educational content, or they survey their audience and give their audience everything they want because they think that's the best way to add value. But what really happens is they start doing a ton of how-to content, the same videos that their audience or their competitors do, or at least the audience perceives them as all the same because every video is titled how to do X, Y, and Z. Then when you survey your audience, you actually let your audience control your message. Instead of being specific and focused on one thing, you're focused on everything so no one really knows what you do. Now, I have 9 ways of doing this. I call this the thought reversal formula, and I have 9 different ways to do thought reversals inside the Video 4X program. But today on this webinar or on this podcast or on this whatever, I'm going to give you the most effective one. And the reason why I'm going to do that is I don't want to overwhelm you with a ton of stuff. And I want to give you the easiest one that you can do today, because if you implement what I'm about to show you, you can see results by the end of tomorrow. So are you ready? Now, what that does is that hooks people in because you're talking specifically to them. They're now paying attention to the step. They're now paying attention to the information you're about to give. So what most people do is when they go on a webinar and they teach, here's step 2, they go, okay, here's step 2. Here's what you need to do. Blah, 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 blah. Instead of following these 5 steps. So before I teach anything, whether it be a webinar or video series, I'm usually going through those 5 steps. And that'll take a couple minutes. That'll take a couple minutes to kind of paint the scenery, to paint the picture. And it speaks so deeply to the audience that their subconscious mind goes, boom, pay attention to what they're saying right now. But what it also does, it says, we found so much value in this one thing. We're going to see results. It gets them excited. Their mind's going to go, we need the rest of it. We want the more. We want more. So when you do that as you teach, every step that you do, you're doing that. You're teaching a new thing. You're using that formula, especially in a sales mechanism like a video series, a challenge, a webinar. People start to pay attention and they have this internal drive or demand to want to work with you, to want to pay attention, to want to get your program. We're not shying away from what we sell. We're leaning into it. Okay, so those are 3 ways that you can create demand. Those are 3 tools that we use that help the audience self-identify. Number 1, I have a problem. Number 2, they are the solution. Number 3, I need their program. You can use these interchangeably. You can use them in different areas. So for example, list formula I use in a lot of ad copy. I like to use it in a lot of emails. I like to use it sometimes in the beginning of webinars and things like that. But essentially what the list formula is going to be when you list out the specific things they're doing and the specific problems or things they're experiencing that they don't like. Get very specific. That's a keyword. You got to get specific. Use numbers. Use real situations, whatever you can to get specific. That's the list formula. The time-based identifier. This is when you pick one specific problem. Usually it's going to be the one that most of your audience is experiencing, and tell them if you have been blank experiencing or doing this problem, experiencing this problem for more than blank, put your time base in there, then I know you are either the struggling avatar, you're doing this, or you haven't done this. So if you've been doing blank for more than blank, then I know blank. Okay, so that's the time-based identifier. And then the framework, the 1 and more framework, is before you teach anything, whether it be in an email, podcast, webinar, video series, challenge, I don't care, whatever, you're going to use the 5 steps, which is I'm about to give you, and then list a benefit or a promise. Here's the specific mistakes that most people make. So list the specific things that they're doing. Here's what happens when you make those mistakes. So list the real live examples, the real live things that they're experiencing. And then you're going to list, I have X amount of ways of doing this inside blank, your program, but I'm going to give you the best or my favorite one now because of blank. And that way you can start to see results in blank. Okay. So those are the 3 things that you can do. Those are 3 demand creation tools based on the audience self-identifying that they have a problem and you are the solution. This doesn't require them to think. This doesn't require them to use logic to see if you're the right fit, not the right fit. This is what you can do in order to show people and let the subconscious mind automatically make the decision for them that you are the person who can help them with these problems because you understand it deeper than anybody else. This is a proper way to communicate. Look, I understand this better than anyone else. So if you don't use these tools, the only thing you're left with, and this is what most people do, is things like, I have 25 degrees on X, Y, and Z. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've been doing, I have so much experience. That stuff doesn't really, that bores people. That doesn't really convince them of anything. That's a logic-based way of explaining, I really know my stuff, when we want a subconscious way of explaining it. And I'm telling you right now, when you can go deeper and more specific using these formulas, the subconscious mind will say, this person knows exactly what I'm doing, exactly what I'm experiencing. They have the solution to this. This allows their subconscious mind to go, I have a problem. That is the person with it. And I promise you this, if you go up against someone who has more degrees than you and more experience than you, and their communication style is, I have degrees, I have 20 years experience in doing this, and that's their selling point, and your selling point is using these 3 tools, I am promising you, you will get more clients than they will. because the subconscious mind will automatically go, yes, them, because the other person is using logic versus the subconscious thinking, the subconscious process. So that's it. Those are the 3 communication tools or demand creation tools that you can use. Give them a try. And what I would love for you guys to do is to head over to our Facebook group, the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast, after you try these out. And I want you to tell me how they work. Now, if you have any questions like, hey, Brandon, I didn't catch this, or what's the formula here? What are the 5 steps here? Feel free to head over to the Facebook group as well and post a thing in there, and we will help you out. Either myself or Julie or someone else on the team will definitely help you out with those questions. So that's it for this episode. If you have not done so already, head over to that Facebook group. And if you feel like this podcast was valuable, I would love to hear your feedback by leaving us a positive review over there on iTunes. And that's it for now. We'll see you guys on the next one. Take care. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested, and thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.